Introducing Zach Davis and Josh Anderson with the SoundMoney Podcast.
Hello and welcome to this week's episode of the SoundMoney Podcast. SoundMoney, Sound Principles. My name is Josh Anderson here today with Zach Davis. How are you, Zach?
I'm good, Josh. How are you, all listeners? Good to see you.
Oh, man, I am great. Coming off the Thanksgiving week. It's been a great start to the holiday season. Man, just awesome time of year as we close out 2024. Just been a good, fun couple weeks in life, I think. So excited to be here with the listeners today.
It's good to have a little bit of reflection time, slow down a little bit and think about you get wrapped up in all the things you got to do, right? And the frustrations of business. So it's nice to have a little time to just sit back and go, I got a lot more to be grateful for than I got problems. So
Amen.
It's good.
Amen. You know, for me, Zach, you do the same. You know, we get so busy with all of our businesses, there's kind of, when you're home, there's just never a free moment in your brain. I mean, you might have free moments, right? Like I've been in my office today. I've actually had no people in my office today. And
that's nice.
Yeah, it's a miracle. But I've had no peace, right? Like,
yeah,
we got so many business things going on around the world that my brain has been engaged all day and on the phone all day. And I'm just coming home, you too. I mean, I leave town and sometimes we go chase these animals around the world. And man, I'm juiced up as an entrepreneur because I've been sitting in a deer camp for the last few days, and my brain got to think about, like, stop with the problems of the day and really think. And we got a lot to be grateful for, and we got a lot of exciting things going on in business. And man, it's just great to be refreshed with some ideas in mind, right? Like,
yeah, it's good.
Real ideas. So excited to be here today. We've got a different episode. We've had a lot of our listeners, Zach, reach out via messages through YouTube, through YouTube Music, through Spotify and Apple Music with some questions, right? And this is great, So we had two listeners recently ask a very similar pointed question. Their question was built around, what does it take for an entrepreneur to have a successful mindset, right? What does it take? What are kind of the mindset characteristics to win in business or to start, a business? And so we kind of wanted to take on that challenge for a minute, right? If listeners have that question, that's something that we'd like to tackle. And in preparation for that, you and I were talking, and really we can't address that full question without first addressing one that didn't get asked. Oftentimes there's this underlying, there's fundamental principles that make one person successful versus another in mindset in business. But underlying that, there's a greater question that if this question isn't answered, it doesn't matter what your mindset is, you can't be successful. And so, Zach, I would like to maybe jump in and address some of that tonight and talk about it. One of the issues there is how do people feel about money? In order to really get to the heart of this, right, you got to ask yourself this question first. Fundamentally, how do you feel about money? And Zach, take it away for a minute. Why would I even say that? Why would I even say that fundamentally, before you can answer the question about what successful philosophies do you have to be successful in business, why would I say that the first thing you have to identify is how do you feel about money?
Yeah, it's a good question. And it's a huge topic, by the way. I mean, we could literally spend a week every day just drilling down into the background of this and why it's so critical. But here's the problem is you hear so many people talk about money, and you hear people talk about business and how they want to be successful and the things that they want, right? And the goals that they're setting, and they want to have financial freedom for their families, and they want more time and all these different things. But then in the same breath, you'll hear them say something negative about someone who has a bunch of money or who has nice things or has a nice car. It's like those two thoughts cannot live in the mind at the same time. And so I've mentioned it before. There's a great book that everyone I think should go read, The Magic of Thinking Big by David Schwartz. And he relates the brain to like a bank account, right? And I won't get into all the details, but the bottom line is if you're the bank teller and all I've ever done is put into the bank negative thoughts about money and about people who have money and how nasty they are, and they're greedy and they're selfish and they take advantage of people and they don't pay their employees very well and they just waste their money on things. And, well, they could have taken that $1 billion and saved world hunger. I mean, it's like you have all these different thoughts. If that's what you're thinking about all of these people who have what you want every day, and then I come to you as the bank teller and I go, you know what? I want $1 million or I want this. You're going to go, but Zach, you've never made any deposits that would support that. You can't make a withdrawal, right? So it's like how you think about money is going to affect what you do every single day. There's a formula that I use all the time, and I didn't make it up. It's everywhere out there, but thoughts lead to feelings and feelings lead to actions, right? And the actions lead to your results. So if you're thinking about people or money a certain way, then you're going to get this feeling inside. So if you look at your bank account, you're like, oh my gosh, I'm broke. I got no money. Then what feeling comes? It's like panic. There's a saying out there, you've probably heard this, scared money don't make no money.
Yeah.
And it's because, scared money don't make no money. Because if you're like in a situation in life where you have very little money and you panic about that, it creates this internal feeling. And then what does your feeling do? It makes you go act a certain way. So then all of a sudden, you may not even know it, but you start doing things in a certain way that actually lose you more money because you're scared, right? So how you think about money is actually really important, because why in the world would God give you more of what you don't want? If every day you're thinking rich people are nasty, or, they're greedy, or all these things, and you don't want to be nasty and greedy, but in your mind, the only way to be nasty and greedy is by having a lot of money. It's like, why would your brain ever help you get more of what you don't want?
And that's what people just don't realize, right? How we think in our minds about things like that determine, our subconscious is so powerful. It determines what will happen to you. It determines whether or not you can achieve it or get it or receive it. I've been really, I consider myself extremely blessed, right? I grew up with a grandfather who just loved business. He loved making money. He loved the game of money. We'll talk about that a little bit later. But he would always tell me the things that you're saying right now. He would say, Josh, don't ever think negative about money. If you think negative about it, you sure as hell won't get any of it. He said that's how he would put it, right? He wasn't very sophisticated the way he talked, but he understood the principle.
You got the point.
You got the point, right? Like, to your point, why would God give me something that I'm telling him every day I don't want, right? In my thoughts. And so he would also tell me, he would say, Josh, and he believed it. He would say, you got to live in a world where you just got to believe that there are money trees all over this earth. And all you got to do is go find one and shake it. And so those are the thoughts he would plant in my brain every day about money, right? Like, and I watched him go through some economic downturns in different industries. He was much like Zach and I, and he had businesses in lots of different industries. And I watched some of those industries go bad, right? But he would never think negatively about it. He would just, with this little side grin, he'd say, I'm just going to go find another money tree. I'm going to shake it, right? And those thoughts, his thoughts, put into me, made me think so differently about money and the power of it. And since then, I've been around a lot of other people who really know how to magnify money, right? So Zach, I've heard you talk about before that money is just a great magnifier. What do you mean? I've heard you say that lots. What does it mean?
I think every single person on this podcast has heard the phrase or said this phrase.
Go.
They were a really nice person until they made a lot of money, right? Boy, that money changed them. Well, when they got that, when they got that windfall or that inheritance, or when they, business was good, money changed them. I'm here to tell you, money does not change people. Money is a magnifier. It just makes you more of what you already are. So the problem is it's all internal, right? If you're a nasty person and you're broke, nobody sees it, right? You don't have much influence, because that's what money is. Money is influence. And so if you're a really nasty person and you have a ton of money, you have a lot of influence. You make a big splash, everybody sees it, right? But you were always a nasty person, whether you were broke or whether you had a lot of money. So, I personally don't believe that money changes people. I think it magnifies the characteristics that you already have, which is why it is also so critical that you have a healthy mindset around money and success, right? That my philosophy, and I've said this over the years to lots of people, there are a lot of people who love money and they use people, right? My philosophy is I love people and I use money. Money's the tool, not the people, because I want to be a good person, right? Everybody has a relative moral compass of what they think is moral and ethical and is a good person. But in my mind, I want to be a good person. I want to help people out. I want to have integrity. When my kids go down to the tire shop and say, "Hey, I need a set of tires," I want whoever owns that tire shop, when they say, "I'm a Davis," to go, "Oh, is your dad Zach?" And have them go, "Yeah, we'll put the tires on. I know your dad will be in here to settle up with me." Right? Like, I want to be a good person. So it has way less to do with the money than it does the character of who you really are and what your personalities are. It would just magnify what you already are.
So on that, right, Zach, I 100% agree, right, that money doesn't change people. It just magnifies what they are. And sometimes they haven't had the opportunity to show forth what they are until maybe they get a little money. I also, right, I go back, you can, our listeners, right, you can either agree with what I'm about to share or disagree. It doesn't really matter. The most read book of all time. Anybody take a guess what that is? Most read book of all time. You can disagree with it or agree with it, but the most read book of all time by more people on earth ever than any other book, is not even close, is the Bible.
Gotta be the Bible. Yep, it's the Bible.
Okay. I love something in the Bible. I love the story, the parable of the talents. Right? Like, this is, to me, and you could be religious or not religious. The principle is 100% true, and you can watch it work inside or outside of a faith or religion. But the parable talks about how 3 different people are given 3 different amounts of money. Okay, so the Lord of the vineyard, this man, gives 3 workers talents. Lucky for us, that was the currency of the day, right? But we could also actually use our literal term today of a talent, right? Like something you're good at. But in this case, at the time it was written, it was actually a piece of money. And one was given like 2, and one was given 5, and one was given 10, right? And the unique thing is, some took and buried those in the ground, right? They thought, hey, the Lord's going to come back. He's going to ask about these, and I don't want to lose them, right? I don't want to lose them. I got to make sure I save it for him. This idea, when Zach was saying that scared money don't make money, you bury it in the ground. I got to hold on to it. And you think you're doing this great thing, right? But another takes it out and goes and puts it to work and tries to turn it into more. And he turns it into 10. And another turns it into 100. But when the Lord came back and asked for an accounting, you'd think he'd be really happy for the one that just buried it and saved it. But he called him a unprofitable and unwise servant, right? Because what? Because he saved it? Like, and I don't care. I mean, we might have some Dame Ramsey lovers on this podcast. If you are, you shouldn't be listening to it, because that guy's an absolute ass and moron, but whatever. But if you listen to him, you shouldn't listen to us. Is that true? Okay.
It's true. If you want to be debt free, listen to him. But if you want to be broke, listen to him, right? You'll be debt free, but broke.
And if you want to be an unprofitable, unwise servant, listen to him. But anyway, you would think that by giving back the 2 talents that you'd be happy. But that's not what it's there for, because you got a scared mindset around money, right? But if you go put it to work and you go try and increase it, your mindset is that this is a good thing and I can do good in the world with it. And I just think there's a real lesson there that when we're given the opportunity to have something, it's our responsibility to try and grow it for the good of others, right? And so to this point, I believe that I've been really lucky in another aspect. I grew up with a dad, and my dad, we didn't grow up with money. Okay. We just didn't have that growing up. But one thing we did have is anything that my dad owned. It could be a hammer. It could be an old dirt bike. It could be a pickup truck, an old pickup truck. If he owned it and anyone needed it, a friend, an enemy, a neighbor, an acquaintance needed to borrow it, they could come do it. No questions asked, no money, any time of day. That was my father, right? That's how he raised me. And I'm here to tell you, if you give to the world, if you give to help someone else, if you're very free and generous with your objects, your money, your time, I promise you, you're going to be blessed with those things tenfold back. I've just lived it. And so
100%.
that to me, right, is the principle.
Yeah, a hand that's open to give is a hand that's open to receive. A hand that's closed to give is a hand that's close to receive. Right? It's like, and I think about the parable of the talents that you just shared in a very real way. Like, he buried his talent. Where did he bury it? He buried it in the soil, right? But where do you bury your money today? Like, this is a really hard principle for me that I've had to learn this. And by the way, I still struggle with this. I think it's a lifelong challenge to fix some of these things that you've learned as a kid and over time, and like, you just got to constantly work on it, right? But I love to see large amounts of cash in my bank account because I feel comfortable. But here's what I know. That's the earth I buried my money in. Bank account does not make me any money, right? So like, there's this weird dichotomy that I deal with where I'm like, oh, if my bank account gets below this threshold, I like panic, right? And then I go, oh, scared money doesn't make money. You got to quit, don't do that. I look at money in a very real way, like soldiers, and I'm trying to build a kingdom. If you're kingdom building and you're the Romans, you don't leave your soldiers at home, right? You don't leave them home training all the time. What do? You send your soldiers out to conquer other kingdoms. And then what do? They bring back all the stuff. So in my thought process, I look at my bank account as going, if I have lots of little soldiers sitting in my bank account, I am not kingdom building because I've got all my warriors sitting at home. I need to deploy that cash, get it out there somewhere where it can make me money, conquer other kingdoms, and bring that money back, right? Robert Kiyosaki always says, cash is trash. That's why he says that. Because if you're sitting on large amounts of cash, it's not doing anything for you. It's like all your warriors sitting at home, but they need to be deployed. So cash in the bank account is not what's important. I don't care about cash in the bank account. I care about cash flow, right? And it's interesting because what do we call money? We call it currency.
Currency.
What does a current do in the ocean? It moves, right? Back and forth. And so money is not designed to just sit. Money does not grow by sitting. Money attracts money. So it's got to be out there, right? It's an ebb and flow. It's a current. It's got to go out and come back, right? And you hope you make wise choices in your investments and your business dealings that your soldiers go out and you haven't put them on a battlefield that they're all going to get killed on, right? Which sometimes happens.
Sometimes happens.
But you don't want to be just sitting on piles of cash. And that's where a lot of people, when they get the mindset of wealth, they're like, oh, I just need to build my bank account and get all this cash. No. You want assets. You want all these different things out there conquering, bringing that cash home so you can redeploy it someplace else.
One of the things, Zach, that I hate ever since World War II, I thought the United States of America has had a really big challenge with this, right? Starting post World War II, a lot of U.S. families started to think about what they called retirement and retirement income and retirement accounts, right? And so it changed mindsets, right? And I know why they did it. Like all these corporations, I mean, guys like you and I, we want employees who think scared about money and think I've got to work really hard for 50 years and put money away in a savings account, in a 401k, in an IRA, whatever, in a pension if you're a government employee, so that then I can draw on it from 65 to 85. That mindset started to ruin America. It ruined innovation. It ruined production. It ruined how many great more ideas and companies and things would we have if that wasn't the mindset. And that wasn't the mindset ever in America until post World War II. That's when that whole idea perforated into the community. And I think it's really destroyed innovation. So if you don't want to be like, they want to think different, when Zach says, you got to take that money, you got to go put it to war, right? It's got to go out and conquer. That's how you have to look at it. And it's a different way of thinking, because the majority of people you work with or around or you talk to are thinking opposite. They go, I got to put it in the bank. I got to put it in a savings vehicle. So that I can take it out one day. And we've talked in lots of episodes about inflation. And if you're going to do that, sure as heck, don't keep it in paper currency, fiat currency. Keep it in gold, silver, oil, dirt, something else. Don't keep it in dollars. You're killing yourself. But you've heard that from us before. I kind of want to shift gears there, Zach. I think we get accused sometimes, right? People that really don't know us. They sometimes accuse us of, well, why do you guys love money so much? Right? The question comes all the time, right? And I tell people, I'm really honest. Like, I do love money. I love it. I love making it. It's not money. It's not even what it buys. I love making it. I love creating it out of thin air, right? Like, I love the thrill. I mean, you were just in my office a few minutes ago. We got a project we've been working on. I won't talk about it. It's nothing to do. It's making money out of thin air. Are we making it? Did you watch? I mean, we're making it, right? Like,
it's like an ATM machine, baby.
It's like an ATM machine, right? And I just go, oh my good. And it's something I've been working on for a while. And it's just, and does that get me excited? Oh yeah. Right. Like, I can't sleep. I really love it. It's not the money, right? I don't care about the dollars it's making. It's the game to me. I love that in the world we live in today, that there's a game being played by a lot of men and women. 99% of the people are in the stands. 99% are in the Coliseum. They're in the baseball arena. They're in the football stands, and they're watching down the grass. And there's a handful of us playing on the grass. And that's the game of business, the game of trying to get somebody else to take their money and give it to you for something, okay? And I love standing on that grass and seeing how many of those games I can win. How many of those, and it just so happens that the way that we keep score in the business game is money. So when I say I love money, that's why I love money. I love the game of it. When you get asked about why you love money, what's your answer?
Yeah, it's the tool. Right. It's, and I say this all the time when people, one of our businesses, we have people that come in, they buy a membership, and then they go out and talk to other people about getting a membership. And oftentimes the one thing when you ask them, you're like, why did you buy a membership, and why do you have a desire to build a business? They're like, I want more money. Like, no, you don't. Like, you don't want more money, because with more money, guess what? Comes more problems. But what you really want is what the money will do for you, right? It's the feeling that's associated with the things that you can buy with money. So, or the things that you can do with money. So people ask me, why do I like money? It's because it allows me to do more things that I like to do, that bring me that feeling of joy, happiness, and peace and gratitude. And like, I can spend more time with my family. Like, my family time, people look at me and they're like, Zach, you're on the road all the time. You don't spend any time with your family. Well, guess what? I might not be home with my kids every night between the hours of 6 and 10 when they go to bed. But there are moments that I get to spend with my kid for a week, right? Take my family and my wife and kids for a week to someplace, and we explore, right? There's times that we're like, hey, let's run up here for maybe 2 or 3 days. And it turns into a 7 or a 10-day road trip. And so it's like, that's what the money allows us to do, is create this freedom to be able to have the things that we really want. I don't want the money. I really don't care about the money. I wish that money wasn't a thing, right? And that everybody could just survive and live and do the thing. But it is. And it's the tool by which we provide for each other and exchange goods and services. And so I want the money because of what it allows me to do in my life. And I see other people, like, this is weird. Somebody asked me the other day, they're like, what is the thing that brings you the most joy, right? And they're like, it's got to be like your business and making the money. You know what it is? Like, this is really dumb. And it's not like I wake up every morning and I think, and this is my thought. But as I thought about that, I thought, what brings me the most gratification and the most joy and the most like meaning is is driving down the road and seeing my neighbor's trash can out on the road and walking it up to his door. Right? That's if I really think about it, if I go swipe my credit card, or if I go write a check and buy a brand new motorcycle or buy a gun or buy a hunt or right or whatever, like those are fleeting moments of, okay, that was really cool. But for me, like that really internal drive is I just like to do things for people, right? And help out. And I need a lot of money to do that. So that's why I want the money, is it allows me to do more of the things that bring that feeling that I really enjoy, is helping other people.
One, at the end of the day, Zach, I believe a lot of our listeners are probably wondering, what are these guys talking about on this topic? Why are they so passionate about it? Because I'm just here to tell you, if you can't figure out how to fix your thinking around money, it won't come to you. You gotta look at it, like Zach said, as the tool, as the resource, as what it can open for doors, how you can play the game more. And so if you're somebody who just happens to have some negative thoughts around it, we're going to close today with, Zach, what are some things that if people got negative thoughts around money? So they've said, man, look, money changed him. He's a dirtbag now. Oh, man, that money, all rich people are jerks. If you think, if you've been having those thoughts, right? If you have those when you drive down the road, or maybe your mom or dad or grandparent put them in your head every day as a kid, right? That money's evil. You've heard that before. Like some people say, money's evil. Rich people can't go to heaven, right? Money can't get you to heaven. Sure, money can get you to hell, though. You know, if you have those thoughts, and those have been ingrained into you, first of all, you got to fix it. But Zach, we're going to close today with what are a couple things that people can do to fix it?
Yeah, I number one is you have to identify it. So next time somebody cuts you off in a really nice vehicle, really pay attention to what did you say, right? In your mind, you're like, oh, that rich jerk or whatever. Really pay attention to what you got to be realistic about what your real thoughts are. And then, so this is something that I have people do all the time. And I do this the same way. You remember, this is the equation. Your thoughts lead to feelings. Your feelings lead to your actions. Your actions lead to your results. If you think a certain way, it will create feelings that will make you act a certain way. That's what you get in life. So for me, one of the first things that I do when I start thinking a certain way is, number one, realize it. And then I ask myself, whoa. Is this how I really want to feel? It's recognizing it, right? Is this really how I want to feel? And if the answer is yes, great. You can sit and wallow in it for as long as you want. But when you're ready to have some money and be successful, then you have to say, no, this is not how I want to feel. Then you ask the question, well, how do I want to feel? Well, I want to feel really good about money, and I want to feel like money is good and that it can get me things. Okay, great. Then you have to start thinking that way, right? But it's recognizing it and start looking at other people instead of looking at all the bad things that you think they're doing with their money. I'll give you a prime example. You could Google today the words Donald Trump. And what are you going to go find? He is a billionaire, right? Very rich, very successful man. Well, if you go Google those words, you're going to find a whole list of all the ugly things that he's done. So even the media is helping you to think poorly about money and people who are successful because they run exposés all the time about people who are successful. Stop reading that crap. For everything you hear, you could also go Google and do a little digging and research and go listen to some podcasts and interviews, and you will hear some amazing things that Donald Trump has done for people. So you have to start thinking about, okay, that person's very wealthy. Yeah, he might have some bad attributes, but what has he done with his money? And think about what you could do with the money, right? And start changing your thinking about what would I do if I had this money? And do that exercise of when you first think money, what do you think? Is it good or bad, right? Does it bring up a feeling for you of panic, of like, oh, I don't have any? Or does it bring a feeling for you of like, oh yeah, I got lots, let's go, right? So start thinking about the way you think about money, how you react and think about other people that have money, recognize it, whether you have a problem or not, and then start saying in your mind, this is how I want to feel. Because if you think that way and then you feel that way, you'll start doing things that get you the result, right? Pay attention to your thoughts and your feelings.
Well, Zach, I appreciate that because that's a real thing for most people. And I know the questions that got asked are what are the philosophies that I got to have to be successful? And we just talked about it and realized that all of it starts with how you feel about money. And if you can get that figured out, then we can work on the philosophies to make you successful. Then we can help on those things. But the number one thing is to understand how you personally feel about it and how you interact with it and what you want it for. And so, glad you guys listened this week. Glad that we could be with you this week on the Sound Money, Sound Principles podcast. We look forward to seeing you next week, and look forward to it. So, Zach, adios. Thanks.
It was fun to be with you guys. And by the way, if you have any topics that you want to hear from us, throw in the comments. We try to look at those and see what our listeners are interested in. If we know anything about it, we'll talk about it.
You got it. All right.
Okay,
Appreciate
see you
everybody.
guys.
Talk to you later. See you later.
All right. See ya.